South Africa is facing criticism for phasing out the Zimbabwean exemption permits. The decision by Cabinet could see scores of Zimbabweans living and working in South Africa having no option but to return home should they not secure work permits and other relevant documents. A 12-month grace period has been given for those who are affected to migrate to other permits. For more on this, I'm joined by Lindokuhle Mdabe, an attorney at Lawyers for Human Rights Law Clinic. Good to have you with us, Mr. Mdabe, this afternoon. Let's talk about the Zimbabwean exemption permits and why they were actually put in place in the first instance.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tammy. Good day to your viewers as well. There are two critical reasons which I think are important for us today for why the dispensation for Zimbabwean people was adopted. The one was to sort of lower the pressure from the reception center of the department because it was being overwhelmed by a number of Zimbabwean immigrants coming into the country. So I suppose the first one was to deal with alleviate the backlog that was there. And then the second one was to, of course, accommodate Zimbabwean migrants in the country because they were facing a number of social and economic issues in their country. I must say that those two issues have not been resolved. And they're still ongoing issues.
So you're saying that the asylum seekers who first came into South Africa from Zimbabwe seeking asylum because of, political persecution in most instances in Zimbabwe, are you saying that that situation still persists to this day? Have those dynamics changed for Zimbabwe and Zimbabweans?
Yes, I'm saying those dynamics have not changed. In fact, we suspect they're worse nowadays. The socioeconomic conditions and the political conditions in Zimbabwe have not changed, and our view is that they're worse than they were in 2009, and so we're still trying to hear from South African government about the rationale behind adopting now what seems to be the final decision to not extend the permit beyond the 31st of December of this year. We suspect something else may have influenced the South African government in taking this decision. They've already made a statement that it was not reasonable of them to keep on extending for the longest time because here they're dealing with people who are under a special dispensation. They seem to adopt the view that it makes sense now to reach some form of finality in this by reaching this decision which they've now reached, and to now put people under the existing permits in this country. But we all know that there are existing problems in servicing a number of applicants insofar as the other dispensations are concerned. So,
yes, we're still waiting for further rationale as to why Cabinet has decided to make this decision. But you made a statement there in your answer saying that there may be other dynamics and reasons why, Cabinet has reached this particular decision to put an end or to phase out the exemption permits. What could those reasons be?
See, now you want me to ask, you want me to give you an answer on those. Look, we are unsure. I don't know, but we know what is already factual is that we know that there has been some politicking around issues of foreigners in South Africa and migrants in South Africa. We know what happened during the elections and who made statements around which we think are xenophobic statements around migrants in South Africa. we suspect that that kind of environment may have something to do with this. But of course, that's all just conjecture and speculation. But of course, that's the kind of environment that we're dealing with, and this decision is perhaps not surprising, given the fact that the very core reasoning and logic that made the South African government to adopt this dispensation have not been really addressed. They're still there. That is why we're saying it's not surprising that they will now come to the decision that they've made.
I mean, from your answer, it's clear that context here matters and the kind of dynamics that may have led to this particular situation. But as you have said, we still await the factual rationale from Cabinet as to why they've made this decision. But what is the likely impact of this going to be on Zimbabweans?
Look, as a human rights organization, we can only look at this from a human rights lens. We know for a fact, and because this is true for a number of our client communities, that there is going to be some sort of impact when it comes to access of services in the country. By access, I mean a wide spectrum of access of facilities in the country. An example would, of course, include accessing loans in the bank. People who have already, we know that there are examples of people who have been rejected from their bond application. We know for a fact that that affects the right to housing. There is uncertainty around certain employers extending employment contracts for some other Zimbabwean migrants, and that affects the right to work. There's also going to be some impact in the right to health as well, and the right to social assistance, and the right to education, and of course the right to family life for many Zimbabwean migrants who have established themselves here in the country, they've established their lives and have children here, have spouse and partners in the country. So we're looking at a multiple impact insofar as the implication of this decision affecting the rights of Zimbabwean migrants in the country.
So what options do the migrants then have to try and make sure that they are able to stay in the country post December 31st?
Look, we really are uncertain. The decision seems to say that beyond the 31st of December 2021, there's going to be a grace period within which people will be allowed to move to other permits, to apply for other permits. At this stage, we are still uncertain about the legal status of that grace period. What do we really mean by a grace period? If you're confronted by the police or law enforcement officers, would you say we are still under that grace period, and therefore you cannot act against me? I don't know what that means as things stand. So there's a bit of uncertainty about that grace period. So what we would recommend under these circumstances is that there needs to be an extension for a period of 10 months, because that allows for greater protection in law. So we would probably want for greater protection under the law. Probably an extension would be able to achieve that, and nothing in between.
The 12-month grace period, according to Minister in the Presidency, Mondli Gongobele, is there to allow the migrants to migrate to other visas. Should they still be under threat in their country, can they once again then reapply for as asylum seekers? Should they not have secured permanent employment in South Africa by that time?
Yeah, well, a lot of Zimbabwean people were, in fact, before the dispensation, a majority of them were asylum seekers applying, of course, for the refugee status, which is why the decision was taken to alleviate the reception the bedlock in the reception centers. So I suppose seeing that the general skills visa was done away with, and now we have the critical skills visa, which is a bit difficult to qualify for. The likely effect of this decision is that we're going to see a huge number of Zimbabwean migrants being now having to be dealt with under the Asylum Seeker or the Refugee Act, and that's still going to increase the bedlock and put more pressure on the reception centers of the Department of Home Affairs, which is already struggling to cope with so many migrants in its system. So, look, the impact of this decision is going to be great, but at this stage we are waiting and seeing. But we can only recommend that the government takes a decision to ensure greater protection for those who may very well be vulnerable in the country, because there might be a retrogressive step in them exercising rights as human beings, trying to find some form of decent existence in this country.
Now, when the Zimbabwe exemption permit was first put in place in 2017, there were 180,000 applicants at that particular time. I don't know, are you aware of the numbers now? Do you know how many Zimbabweans are actually under this particular exemption permit as we speak?
Yeah, at this stage we're not aware of the numbers. Different people seems to be banding different numbers about, and we in our office have not done the number crunching, but we know the fact that there's a huge majority of Zimbabweans who will be likely affected by this decision. And of course, the number is beyond the 180,000 that is being referred to.
Mr. Lindokuhle Mdabe, thank you very much for your time and your insight today. He is an attorney at Lawyers for Human Rights. So